You want to start investing in real estate and you don't know where to get started. This video is for you. I'm going to discuss 4 different ways that you can get involved in real estate investing if you're an absolute beginner or even if you might have just a little bit of experience. Stay tuned. Hey, I am Mr. Maciek. Welcome to the channel. If you want to get more information about investing in real estate or perhaps in the stock market or anything I do to make money, please subscribe below and you'll find out and be able to follow me through the journey of what I do. Also, turn on that ring notification bell and please like this video. It does help the YouTube algorithm understand that you are getting value from this video. So without further ado, let's get into 4 different strategies that you can use. Number 1, house hacking. House hacking sounds like you're doing something wrong. However, it's actually not. It's a great strategy, and I used this strategy in my early 20s when I got my first, second, third, and 4th property. So here's basically what it is. All you're doing is instead of buying a single family home for yourself to live in and pay the full mortgage, full taxes, full insurance, full utilities, what you're doing is either buying something that you can rent out a room or buying a duplex, triplex, or a quad, meaning 4 units in one building or 4 units on one parcel of land. 4 is considered residential property and you can go and qualify for residential loans on that. When I first got started, I was able to purchase a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath townhouse. And on the 6th day of ownership, I rented out 2 bedrooms and 1 bath. So he got a bedroom for himself, an office for himself, and a private bathroom that I never used and neither did any of our guests. And he paid me $600 a month at the time. Now this was 2002, just a little while back. So prices have definitely increased since then. However, what's really great for me is that I got to have my own master bedroom with my own private bath and a separate bedroom. Plus we shared the entire downstairs. So what really happened for me was a wash. And this is where house hacking comes into play. I got to pay all of my expenses for ownership of that house by the expenses that my tenant Dave had. So in a nutshell, I had a 0 cost of owning this property. Now in hindsight, I should have kept making the mortgage payment and making an additional payment or saved up that money. Well, live and learn. Now a more common discussion in house hacking isn't getting a roommate, which is not actually a roommate. I'll get to that in a second. It's actually the process of buying a duplex, a triplex, or a quadplex. Now you get 2, 3, or 4 separate rentable units. And now you can rent these units to other people and cover your costs, maybe make some money, maybe cover most of your costs. It really depends on the market that you're in, what the price market is, and what the rental market is. And a little further in the video, I'm going to describe the real secret when you're doing the numbers calculation. If you don't know, I'm a number cruncher. I really like to crunch all the numbers down and see how much profit will it be. Is it worthwhile investment? How long will the break-even process take? Whatever it is, I'm a numbers guy. So stay tuned later in the video. I am going to talk about how do you really determine, should you buy this triplex? Should you buy this quadplex? In that same section, I'm going to describe what happens if you think you can't qualify for that loan. Now, one thing that's really important to talk about is this roommate situation. So if you have a single family home or condo or townhouse or villa and you are renting a room, don't be fooled. That is not a roommate. It sounds like it's a roommate, but it is not a roommate. If you are the owner of this property, you just entered into a landlord-tenant relationship. If you go rent a house with a buddy, that's a roommate. But in this case, you have different laws that you have to follow. So let me tell you a quick story. With that first roommate that I got, Dave, what happened was he was a drummer and he kind of just played a lot at night. I worked in the day. I never really got to see him. Literally weeks would go by without us running into each other. It was a really good scenario for both of us. However, what happened was there was a moment where 2-3 months went by. I didn't hear from him. he wouldn't answer my phone, he wouldn't answer my texts, and he never paid rent. So, after I got about 3 months in, I said, forget about it. You can't stay here and take up these 2 rooms. I'm just going to find somebody else. What did I do? A big mistake. I went and I changed out the front door locks. So, when he came home that night, mind you, I haven't seen this guy for a few months, and he happens to come home that night. He couldn't get in. So what did he do? He broke in. The next morning, I realized that my window was kind of bent out of shape. I had the maintenance man of the community let me know that he saw him, the tenant, Dave, come in through that window while I was at work the next day. So, what happened? I call 911. If someone is breaking into my house, that's against the law, and I'm going to make sure to document everything with the police so that I don't have any issues. And if I do have any problems, at least they have record of what happened. So the officer sat me down in my living room, and he went over the facts. Tenant did not pay rent. Landlord changed the locks. Tenant broke back in. And that's it. Next thing he says is, young man, I'm going to do you a favor. I will not arrest you. Me? Arrest me for not getting paid rent? For protecting my property? What's going on, officer? And that's when he really opened my eyes up, when he said, you know, as you have rented a property that you own, you have entered into a landlord-tenant relationship. You keep talking about roommates, but there's no roommate here. There is a tenant here, and there is a landlord here. So then he advised me to read Florida Statutes 83 Part 2, talking all about residential tenancies. What a bore. However, it did open up my eyes, and from then on, I treated every single tenant as a tenant, following the law, making sure I don't do anything that's going to get me into trouble. All right, well, enough about that story. Now we're moving on to point number 2. How can you, as a beginner, get into real estate investing? And here's the deal. There are many programs out there that you can actually purchase a home when you don't think you can. As a real estate agent, I have helped many young people who make $9, $10, $11 an hour get into home ownership. So what's the first step? Save your money. It's really important for you to have down payment. And you're probably thinking, oh geez, how am I going to get $20,000? Well, you don't have to get $20,000. The market will dictate how much you need, but it's basically a percentage. So an FHA loan is one of the best ways to get into home ownership. My first property was an FHA loan. 3.5% of the purchase price, you need to have cash down payment. What about all the closing costs? What about all the repair costs? What about the realtor fees? What about? Don't worry about that. What you really need is 3.5% down on an FHA loan. The seller can pay your closing costs. You have to formulate your strategy that way. You have to formulate the offer to encompass your closing costs. And on an FHA loan, you get to have up to 6% of the purchase price go towards your closing costs. On a conventional loan, it's only 3%. So you're really going to need about 5 to 6% for that. And that's what I did on my first home purchase. I had a great realtor. It was my friend's dad. And he helped me get into that condo that I just told you about, the townhouse. And he had the seller pay all the closing costs. And the seller was a seasoned investor, and he was happy to help a young 22-year-old Maciek get into home ownership. So now, what else do you need to have? You need to have your down payment, 3.5%, and you need to have some good credit. Now, what do you mean good credit? Well, officially, FHA's minimum is 580. However, you're not going to get the best interest rates at 580. You are, frankly, a high-risk client. So do your best to go and improve your credit score. So another way, if you can't save 3.5%, another way is if you're a veteran, you can get a VA loan, 100% financing. The only other thing you need to do is smash that like button because you're getting value from this video. Help YouTube understand that what I do is of value to people like you. Now, another thing regarding down payment money or VA loans, there is one more program that does get used, but I don't recommend it. It's just important to know about down payment assistance programs. So the pro of this is that they will give you a good 3% towards your down payment if you don't have that money. But nothing in life is free. You will pay for it. What they do is when interest rates are 4% and you get a down payment assistance program grant, it's free money. What happens many times is they will jack up your interest rate. So now instead of paying, 3.5%, you're going to pay 4.75. And when you do the math, which I do the math for my clients, it's just not worth it. If you stay in your home more than like 2.5 years, it's a ripoff. You can try to refinance later, but honestly, it's not worth it. Just get down to the grind, hustle every weekend, and save up 3.5%. It's really not that difficult. All you have to do is be disciplined, budget your money, and don't make excuses. All right, now the third way of investing in real estate as an absolute beginner, and this one you need $0 for, is wholesaling. Now you might have heard the term, and in general you just might know what wholesaling is. When you purchase something for one price and you sell it for a better price. Whether it's 2% higher or 100% higher, that's just your margin. But really the idea is the same. You can go to garage sales and you can go buy some old comic books or some baseball cards, and then you can resell it on eBay for more money if you know what you're buying. Well, the same thing with real estate. You can go out there and you can go find properties by just placing ads, by placing Facebook ads, by calling people, literally knocking on doors. It's really not that difficult. And then you get that property under contract. And they call that tying up the property. So you get it under contract. And then, as soon as you do, you go and reach out to investors. So let me go over just a little bit of how you find this and where you find this. So first thing is first, where do you place ads and what do you do? Well, have you ever seen those signs on the road that says, "We buy houses cash"? Guess what? They don't buy houses cash. Good 90% of those people are just wholesalers. All they're doing is trying to find a property to tie up with a contract so that that seller cannot go and resell it to somebody else. So one way is put up signs out there. So one way is to put signs out there on very busy intersections and in and out of Home Depot and Lowe's, for example, that says "We buy houses cash," and set up some Google phone number, and then as soon as they dial that number, either have an automated voice message or just have it forward to your cell phone. Another way that you can go and find people is what they call driving for dollars. It's really simple. You can drive or just ride your bicycle, drive around in a neighborhood over and over and over, and as soon as you see a property that has maybe broken windows, maybe grass up to your knees, maybe a couple broken down cars. Now, regardless if anyone lives there, it does not matter. Maybe a tree limb fell and took down the garage or something. You want to find what looks like a distressed property, because distressed properties usually are owned by distressed sellers, right? So you can go and drive for dollars. It's one of the best ways to do it, but it is definitely very time consuming. But it's free except for price of gas. So you drive for dollars and then you find the address. You can look up on your county records, the property appraiser's office, who owns that. You can go search them on Google, you can go search them on Facebook, or you can go on Fiverr.com and you can skip trace them. That means that someone on Fiverr is gonna go and take that name and number and address, and they're gonna try to reverse engineer what the phone number is through a series of multiple databases like LexisNexis. So they have access to these softwares, and they'll charge you $5 for maybe 5 names or 20 names or so. It's really inexpensive. And then you can call these people and just say, "Hi, Mr. Seller, I'm just a local real estate investor trying to increase my portfolio by 3 rentals in the Sarasota area," or whatever your area is. "And I was wondering if you had any interest in possibly selling the property at 123, Main Street that I saw. I just drove by recently and I saw that the grass is pretty high and I thought you might be interested. Do you have any interest?" And then if they say no, put them on a callback list. and call them back in 2 more months, and call them until they are no longer the owner. So this is an absentee landlord, most likely. It's rare that it's the homeowner that actually lives there in these properties that are really distressed. Now, once you find someone who says, yeah, come on over, you're probably going to have a 10% closing ratio at the beginning. You're going to go to 10 properties, and you're only going to get one of those under contract. And you really have to do your due diligence and check how much is the Zillow estimated for, how much have comparable homes sold for in the neighborhood. You might be able to find a realtor that does that work for you in hopes of them getting the listing. But honestly, do the work yourself. Don't be bothering other people because you're too lazy or you're just not willing to take the time to learn how to do it. Ask people for help. You'd be surprised how many people will actually go and help you. So once you get something under contract, you need to go and focus on these guys now, which are the investors. So how do you promote this contract to people who are cash buyers? So these investors, you'd be surprised how easy it is to find. First thing that you can do is you can place an ad on all the real estate type of groups on Facebook that are local to your area. And simply you say, hey, I have a wholesale property being offered. Please leave your information or send me a message with your contact info if you're interested in more information. Approximate price point, $150,000. So you're going to get some from there. Next is you could go to your local RIA, which is a Real Estate Investment Association. And we have one here in Sarasota. There's another one in Bradenton right next to us. There's another one in Venice. So really close by, I have 3 to go to every single week if I want to. And this is where investors go. Usually they have lunch or coffee or something like that, just talking about what's going on in the market. And people get an opportunity to pitch what they have. So just show up, pitch what you got, and people are going to come to you and just say, hey, call me after the whole hour meeting, and I'll tell you what I have. While you're doing that, get their name, phone number, email address, so that next time you get a contract, you could just email them and build your list. You want to get to 300 investors as soon as possible, meaning build your list to 300 people as soon as possible. You're looking for cash buyers, not other wholesalers. Do not get fooled. Make sure you ask that question. Are you going to be the direct person that's going to flip this property or list it on the market or do something with it, or are you just going to wholesale it? And the fourth strategy that you can use as a beginner real estate investor to get into the game is one of the things that I did, although it was not the very beginning of my career, it was just a little bit later, a few years into it. What that is find a real estate investor or find a funding partner. So here's what happened. I went out and I was going to start a real estate investing business with a friend of mine. And her family got involved because we were talking big numbers. We had big dreams, big goals. And this was in 2009 when the economy did tank, a lot of things went down, values went down, and we saw an opportunity. Now, we could have been at any point in time because there's always some opportunity out there. There's always someone that needs to sell, a divorce happening, somebody passed away and there's an estate that needs to sell a property. I'm telling you, it doesn't matter what's going on in the economy. Don't use that excuse. So basically, one thing you can do is find an investor that's already investing and trade your time for a small percentage ownership. Take 5%, take 10%, small. Because they're not going to give you 50% when you're this noob that doesn't know how to do anything. It's best to go and find someone who's experienced and will actually teach you things in the process of you doing them. So yeah, you might have to go pick up a hammer here and there. You might have to run to Home Depot and price out water heaters or something else. Or maybe go and put all the signs out and listen to the phone conversations that this investor does when he's trying to acquire and find some wholesale properties or something. Basically, all you're doing is you're turning your sweat equity into financial equity. And this investor is turning a little bit of his financial stake for doing a lot less work. because there's no way it's going to be fair. And you have to understand that. At the beginning, you are going to be doing the majority of the work, and he or she is going to be making the majority of the money. And as time progresses, maybe those tables will turn and you will make even. You'll go 50-50. Really, just find somebody who has a lot of experience and is willing to work with an eager person. And that should be you. Now, the other way is what I did, is I found somebody who had some deeper pockets to put money into it. And that individual invested money and expected a certain return on investment. And we had regular meetings. And I was the boots on the ground here in Sarasota, Florida. So I was actually the one who would scout the properties, make a presentation, do the number crunching, and then make a decision together. Is this something we want to pursue? I highly recommend you do one of these two strategies because it's an easy way to get into the game and start investing in real estate. Now for the last bonus section. So remember when I was talking about going and house hacking, getting a duplex, triplex, quadplex, or maybe getting a tenant into a single family home? So here's the deal. When banks go and qualify you as a borrower, what they're doing is they're checking what is your income, and then what is your housing expense ratio. And this is a very important ratio for you to keep track of. Because what they're going to do is they're going to say, okay, we qualify you for, a $200,000 house, and go shop for that or less. And you are going to shop for that maximum amount. Don't be fooled. You won't qualify for 220 or 240. The maximum they are going to give you is 200. So you don't want to go and buy the maximum amount. And if you think that you can't buy a duplex for 200,000, it's because you don't know about this trick that's up my sleeve. Duplexes, triplexes, and quadplexes are always more expensive than single family homes. So therefore, what the bank does is they say, okay, you're going to buy a duplex. Great. How much is one of these units going to be renting for? And if you're buying something that's already a duplex with part of it rented, let's just say half of it's empty, half of it is rented, and it rents for $1,000 a month. The bank is actually going to do you a favor, believe it or not. What they're going to do is they're going to say, well, since it rents for $1,000 a month, we are going to assume that you are a bad landlord and you have a 25% vacancy rate. And we're only going to allow you to use 75% of this $1,000, which is $750, towards your income. So now your income that you make here, let's just say you're at $30,000 per year, gets boosted up by $750 times 12. So you're looking at what, $9,000? Now you're at $39,000, and your pre-approval letter for $200,000 just got upgraded to a much higher amount. And perhaps this duplex is listed for $240, and now you can get into it. Or better yet, a triplex. Maybe one is vacant, two are rented, $1,000, $1,000. Now they're adding $18,000 to your income, and you're qualifying as if you're somebody who earns $48,000 a year, not $30,000 a year. That might qualify you for $320,000, or even better yet, a quadplex, and so on. You understand how this works. And if you don't, just reach out to me, write in the comments. I'll be glad to reply directly to it. I hope you really like that extra technique that I had, because it really is an excellent strategy to get into you owning a home directly. And right now, you should click on this video right here, which talks all about how to increase your credit score. Because whether you're using strategy number 1 of house hacking, where you need to go get a loan, or strategy number 2, just having your down payment and having the seller pay for everything else, you still need really good credit. Or strategy number 3, wholesaling. Probably the only strategy you don't actually need great credit, because no one really asks for that, but maybe some sophisticated seller actually will. Or strategy number 4, which you're partnering with somebody, and if you can just tell them, hey, work with me because look, I have great credit, they're probably more eager to work with you because you're already displaying signs of what it takes to become successful in real estate investing. Please subscribe to this channel. Please let the algorithm know that you enjoy this by clicking that like button, and I'll be back for the next one.